Now, we would like to take you to our live coverage of a working lunch with members of the APEC Business Advisory Council hosted by President Lee Jae-myung. If you were staying with us, this follows the official declaration of the opening of APEC 2025 in 경ju and the first session of the main leaders meeting. The APEC Business Advisory Council, also known as ABAC, is the official private sector advisory body to the APEC. It was established by the APEC economic leaders in November 1995. Its primary mandate is to provide recommendations to APEC leaders on priority issues for the business community within the region and to advise on the implementation of APEC's agenda. Now, to discuss this more, we have Professor Yang Jun-seok from the Catholic University of Korea with us here in the studio. Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
Professor, now, not a lot of people are aware of ABAC. So what role does this organization actually play?
Okay, well, as you mentioned, ABAC is the business advisory to the leaders meeting. So they're sort of plugged into the leaders meeting directly, and they work throughout the year to gather opinions from business leaders in their own member economies, and then they narrow it down and they present it to the leaders just before the leaders meeting. Now, the ABAC committee is formed from businesses from all 21 member economies, and each economy can recommend up to 3 members. So at the maximum, there could be 63 members in this committee. Sometimes there's less because some economies recommend less than 3 members, but still. So this gives sort of a direct ear to the economic leaders of the APEC member economies. So in some ways, it can be very effective. In some ways, though, because it's such a top-level organization, they also have to gather so much recommendations from each of these economies that sometimes their message may not be as direct as some businesses want.
Right. But in the meantime, the event seems to have started to have members join the working lunch. We're bringing the live scenes from this event. President Lee Jae-myung will be here to give his opening remarks of this. And as Professor Yang just explained to us, it's a group that will give recommendations to the members of APEC, comprised of business leaders. Now, Professor, to go on further about that, you said the message might not be direct, but it is still an influential group of leaders, right?
Exactly, because they submit their report, well, perhaps not directly personally, but at a very high level. So the economic leaders, the presidents and the prime ministers, they have to at least consider what the ABAC committee has recommended during the leaders meeting. So they do have the ears of the leaders, and they have relatively good access to these leaders. So it's a way for businesses to make their biggest concerns felt to the business leader or the economic leaders, political leaders in APEC.
Right. What we saw on the screen just now was SK Chairman Che Tae-hwa, who is also the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce for South Korea. So he plays a big role in sort of hosting ABAC and APEC itself, right, in Korea.
Right. So this year, the Chamber of Commerce has played a major role in getting businesses to support the APEC 2025 and also provide infrastructure and so on. During the news story that we had just before, they mentioned that Jensen Huang came to Korea. I believe it was under several invitations, but the main invitation was from the Chamber of Commerce. So it was the SK chairman who made the official invitation.
Right. And if you can see on the top right corner, you might have seen, but Bridge Business and Beyond is the slogan of APEC for this year's event. And and speaking of which, for these leaders, global trade might be something that they want to push for during this APEC event, especially with the ongoing tariffs?
Yeah, one of the things that I was a bit surprised about when I saw some of the reports from the meeting and the recommendation that they were preparing during the summer, there was a large component that dealt with trade liberalization. They call it regional integration. But it did include some statements on supporting multilateral trade, which nowadays is a bit difficult given the position of the U.S. Trump administration. So I was a bit surprised that they did make, or at least during the preliminary draft, they made a somewhat strong recommendation to champion the multilateral trading system. I was also somewhat surprised but happy that the idea of FTAP, that's FTAAP, the Free Trade Area of Asia Pacific, that idea has been around for 15 years or more, and ultimate goal is to establish an FTA with all the APEC members. And there had been some questions, even before the Trump administration, whether this was achievable because APEC encompasses such a wide range.
May I have your attention, please?
Wide
dialogue
range
with
of
economic
countries
leaders will begin
or
shortly.
member economies.
Those who are outside
And
the
I'm
venue,
somewhat
please enter
happy
the
to
hall
see
and
that
take
the
your
idea
seats.
is still alive.
We shall
Right,
start
right.
today's event
Okay, now
upon
we
everyone
are
taking
going
their seats.
to
Thank you.
straight to the scenes of the ABAC dialogue with APEC economic leaders, a luncheon for the business leaders hosted by President Lee Jae-myung. Now, he's coming from the first main session of leaders meeting, which kicked off earlier this morning. So, Professor, what do you expect from President Lee's speech for this event? I mean, he's been giving speeches, every day for.
Yeah, and that's what the leader of the host nation is supposed to do. But I expect him to follow up on the themes that he made during the previous speeches. So strong support for international trade, strong support for international cooperation, and perhaps also Korea has been emphasizing AI not only during the APEC meetings, but also it's been one of the key policies of the administration. In fact, you see this a lot during APEC meetings. You see not only Korean presidents, but other presidents or prime ministers try to make their focus of APEC consistent with their own political goals, country's goals.
Right, Professor, and President Lee just stepped in, and we'll see what he has to say, but some things are expected, but it's also interesting to watch what he doesn't say in front of these business leaders. Now, in moments when he starts to speak, we will bring you right to the scene and listen in to what he had to say in front of APEC members' businesses gathered here in South Korea at 경ju for this luncheon. Now, once again, President Lee Jae-myung will give his opening speech for this APEC dialogue. APEC Business Advisory Council, members of leading businesses in South Korea right now for this year's APEC. So it seems like it's going to start. They're taking a picture right now before the event kicks off. Now, Professor, it's always interesting to see these businesses come to Korea. Actually, I think we're going to have to see whether he starts his speech, and we'll get back to you.
Thank
everyone
you,
is
Your
set.
Excellencies. We will
Here's the
now begin
moderator.
ABAC dialogue with APEC economic leaders. First, we will hear welcome remarks from His Excellency Lee Jae-myung, President of the Republic of Korea. We would like to invite Mr. President to the stage.
네, APEC 기업인 자문위원회 위원 여러분,
APEC Business Advisory
천년고도
Council,
경주에서 이렇게 만나
I
뵙게
would like
돼서
to
참으로
welcome you all
반갑습니다.
to our 1,000-year-old capital,
먼저
Gyeongju.
올해
First
APEC
of all,
출범 30주년을
This marks the
국민들과
30th
함께
anniversary of
진심으로
ABAC
축하드립니다.
launch, and I'd like
지난
to
30년
congratulate you
아시아
on that on
태평양
behalf of
지역에
the Korean
일궈낸
people.
역동적인
For
성장의
the last 30
근간에는
years, the
시대의
basis
도전에
of
맞서면서
its
해법을
development
찾아온 바로
was
여러분이 계십니다.
all of you
이 자리를 빌려서
that
감사의
really
말씀을
sought
전합니다.
after the resolutions that
지난
befits
20년간
the time and the
APEC과
era.
ABAC은
For the
참으로
last
많은
several
고난을
decades, APEC
함께
and
헤쳐나가며
ABAC
위기를
were
기회로
together
만들어 왔습니다.
in converting crisis into
1997년의
opportunity.
외환위기,
1997 IMF, foreign crisis, and also in 2008 the global crisis. Whenever the crises were here, we sought after breakthroughs and the investment revitalization, IP protection, and these meaningful things were accumulated. In 2005, the Busan Business Declaration was the willingness of all of us and our promise that we wanted to make the businesses thrive. And as the instability is here around the world, the value of cooperation that we forged together with APEC and ABAC would be very instrumental. And the Republic of Korea's direction forward is very apparent. As I took the office, I promised in front of our people that we are going to be a pragmatic country for the market. And to do so, we are going to go through bold reform of regulatory environment and all the others in a pragmatic manner. And this will be in tandem with the international order. And as the chair country of APEC, we are looking into many different areas from investments and to regulations and to we came up with action plans that reflect these changes. With more solidified cooperation with the private companies, we have designed it so that everyone can bear fruit. With all these endeavors, the Korean economy will achieve growth and leap forward. The Republic of Korea will become a even more attractive investment destination. Honorable leaders, the leader who was the medieval geographer, he referred this place Gyeongju as a place of golden things, that even the collars of dogs are made out of gold. And Gyeongju was built based upon the continuous cooperation with the private sector, and it had disseminated the new knowledge and new culture based on that. The APEC prosperity will be based upon your spirit of challenge, taking upon challenges, and myself and the APEC leaders will spare no effort to support you in your endeavors. The precious opinions of ABAC leaders, I will do my utmost so that it could bear fruit. Thank you very much for your precious time.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your inspiring remarks.
Now that was President Lee Jae-myung giving his speech to ABAC members, APEC Business Advisory Council members. Now, Professor, let's come back to you. So in his speech, there were a lot that was said, and now the audience was different from before. It was diplomatic before. Now it's more business. He appealed South Korea as an attractive place to invest for these businesses. What did you think of his speech so far?
Okay, well, I was first hit by his mention that you turn crisis into opportunities. Korea is suffering from an economic slowdown. We do have a lot of problems with trade relationship with the United States. And he mentioned that Korea has turned crisis into opportunities in the past. He mentioned 1997 currency crisis and 2008 global financial crisis. He also mentioned that after these crises, Korea doubled down on trade and investment liberalization. So that definitely gives the idea that Korea will continue to be an open trading country, and we are seeking foreign investment. And then he sought cooperation with APEC economies, the companies that form ABAC, and he emphasized the pragmatic nature of his administration policies. So basically, he wants to be seen here as pro-business, which may be obvious since this is a business group.
Right.
But Korea does sometimes have a bad reputation for being a tough place for foreign businesses to operate in and businesses overall. So he did mention things like regulatory reform and effective changes so that Korea will be more welcoming to business investment, both domestic and foreign. So I think this reflects the type of policies, economic policies, that he said he was going to take even before the APEC meeting.
Now, Professor, before you go, I would like to ask one more question. Now, in his speech, I was expecting more AI-based statements, but it didn't seem like he kind of focused on it. But what are some opportunities in terms of AI that South Korea can take and APEC members can take here?
Okay, well, maybe he was saving an AI for the next or further speech. Jensen Fang, I think, mentioned yesterday that he did have something to say, but he promised the president that he will get to speak it first. So he might be waiting for the ideal opportunity to say that. But in terms of AI, what Jensen Fang said yesterday was that he had an announcement dealing with AI and robotics. He said that with the chairman of Samsung and Hyundai Motors. So the speculation here is that it has to do with self-driving cars. I also think that there's a good possibility of advancing the robots which are used for manufacturing. There has been some preliminary papers, studies on manufacturing factories which use AI, and they seem to have gained a lot of productivity. So this could be a further sort of experiment down that path. If it works, then the Korean automobile sector may face a great increase in productivity. But even if it's just self-driving cars, Korea is right now somewhat behind on other countries. This will be an opportunity for Korea to catch up.
Well, Professor, thank you so much for your insight and helping us out throughout the live coverage. You know, it's hard to believe that APEC just started because there were so many things that just, made headlines over the past couple of days. Well, Professor, it was good to have you here again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Now, that's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News and the live coverage of ABAC Dialogue. Thank you for watching. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.